This is a presentation demonstrating the process of participatory vendor selection. In this case, Hospital A, a mid-sized practice with 6 to 30 physicians, approached an analyst from Firm B for assistance in selecting the appropriate electronic health record for its mid-sized practice of 6 to 30 physicians. The role of the analyst in participatory vendor selection is to determine the attributes necessary for the organization through a combination of individual and group interviews. These attributes are compared to the specific attributes of the vendor in question, in this case, Epic Care and Altair Office. The analyst then presents the data in an objective manner to enable the experts to make an informed decision. In the individual interviews, the first analyst asked the experts for examples of excellent, good, and poor programs that they had used. She also asked them about important characteristics of an electronic health record and concerns that had about electronic health record implementation. In the first individual interview, the CEO identified several attributes of an EHR of importance to her, including improved efficiency, compatibility, investment in program, rate of success in other hospitals. For this presentation, we will focus on the following attributes: ease of use, which includes the number of steps required to open the program and the number of minutes necessary for data entry, ongoing support and service, and perceived value or decreased costs. The CEO first defined the levels of the different attributes and their corresponding ratings. She rated attribute ease of use 6.5 times more important than the least important attribute. She rated the attribute of ongoing support and service 6 times more important than the least important attribute. Finally, she rated perceived value, or the level of decreased operating costs, at 10. To standardize the weight so that they add to 1, the points for each attribute is divided by the sum of the points. In this case, the sum of the points is 135, and therefore we divide the points by each attribute by 135 to yield the relative weights of each attribute. In the second individual interview, the CIO identified several attributes of an EHR of importance to her, including reliability, cost, and reputation. For this presentation, we will focus on the following attributes: ease of use, which includes the number of steps required to open the program and the number of minutes necessary for data entry, ongoing support and service, and perceived value or decreased costs. She rated the attribute ease of use 4 times more important than the least important attribute. She rated the attribute perceived value 3.5 times more important than the least important attribute. Relative to the other attributes, she rated perceived value at least important, and therefore it received a rating of 10. To standardize the weight so that they add to 1, the points for each attribute is divided by the sum of the points. In this case, the sum of the points is 85, and therefore we divide the points for each attribute by 85 to yield the relative weights of each attribute. Next, the individuals were asked to come to a meeting in which they reevaluated their respective ratings of each of the attributes. The experts identified ease of use, ongoing support and service, and perceived value as 3 very critical attributes of an electronic health record. At the end of the meeting, the analysts used results to calculate revised weights for the 3 attributes based on the revised ratings for the meeting. Together, the experts rated ease of use 5.5 times more important than the least important attribute, ongoing support and service 3 times more important, and perceived value the least important. Note that the weights are organized so that they sum to 1. In the final step, the analysts compared these ratings and weights to published performance ratings of Vendor A and Vendor B. The scoring is done by first assigning each vendor to one of the levels of the attributes. Here we see that the vendors A and B are being evaluated based on the 3 attributes: ease of use, ongoing support and service, and perceived value. Vendor A is judged to take an average of 4 to 6 minutes to load. According to published ratings, this is the good in ease of use and was assigned a rating of 62. Vendor B was also assigned a rating of 62. Vendor A was assigned a rating of 51 for ongoing support and service and 52.8 for perceived value. Vendor B was assigned a rate of 58 for ongoing support and service and 48 for perceived value. When all scores were put in, the analyst then calculated the overall score for each vendor. For each vendor, the overall score was calculated as weighted sum of the ratings. Thus, for vendor A, the rating of 62 on ease of use is multiplied by the weight for ease of use given by the experts. The rating 51 on ongoing support was multiplied by 0.32, which is the weight for ongoing support and service. The rating 52.8 for perceived value was multiplied by the weight for perceived value, 0.11. The overall score is the sum of the weighted rating. In this example, vendor B has the highest score of 59.9. At the end of the evaluation, vendor A received a score of 58.1 and vendor B received a score of 59.9. The analysts concluded that vendor B would be the best selection for Hospital A based on the final scores. Participatory vendor selection is of much value to medical practices. Selecting the right vendor is important as the relationship between the institution and the vendor is for long term. With hundreds of available vendors, choosing the right purchasing option is difficult without the assistance of trained analysts. In addition, there are many different stakeholders in the practice, each with different agendas, and for this reason, it is difficult to create a consensus in the organization. Participatory vendor selection allows the organization to achieve a consensus on vendor and product selection. Participatory vendor selection also gives the analysts the opportunity to prepare the members of the organization for the future changes. Value models are used in the process of participatory vendor selection to help quantify a person's subjective preferences. By this, we mean that the value models assign numbers to options so that higher numbers reflect more preferred options. These preferences are quantified by examining the various attributes of the options. Individual interviews are also crucial in the process of vendor selection. These interviews enable the analyst to identify a person's subjective preferences independent of the group.